I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. I, Douglas Ducote, an American patriot by the grace of God, do solemnly swear to support and defend the Constitution of the United States of America from enemies foreign and especially domestic. Say it with me. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening and welcome to another episode of the Douglas Ducote Show. You had many places to be tonight, but chose to be here with me, and for that I am forever grateful. Well, the polls in Georgia closed at 7 p.m. Eastern Time tonight. It's the Senate runoff election, and it is currently, the counting is underway. Incumbent Democrat Senator Ralph Warnock won 37,000 more votes than the GOP nominee Herschel Walker back in November 8th during the midterm elections. But in Georgia, they require a 50% threshold to win under Georgia law, triggering today's runoff. The Senate is currently split 50-50, with Democrats controlling the chamber due to Vice President Kamala Harris's tie-breaking vote, if need be. I've got my news app up at the moment on my iPad, watching the results as they're coming in. I'll keep you all updated on that as we go through the show. But currently, at this exact moment, it keeps flipping back and forth. But right now, Warnock is over Walker, 50.36 to 49.64. And just about 5 minutes ago, it was just the opposite. And it keeps going, switching back and forth as to who's on top, depending on which counties are closing in on. So we will watch that as we go through this show tonight. Besides that, really the top news story, CNN, MSNBC, liberals, and Democrats are having multiple uncontrollable orgasms this evening, reporting that Donald J. Trump has been found guilty of tax fraud. Of course, that's only due to the way they're spinning the hell out of this on today's verdict in New York. So, what exactly did happen today? Two companies with the Trump Organization were found guilty today of multiple charges of criminal tax fraud in a case brought by the Manhattan District Attorney. A jury deliberated for 2 days and found two corporate entities at the Trump Organization guilty on 17 counts, including conspiracy charges and falsifying business records. The verdict followed a trial in which the Trump Organization was accused of being complicit in a scheme by top executives to avoid paying personal income taxes on job perks such as rent-free apartments and luxury cars. The organization faces a possible fine of up to $1.6 million. A fine of up to $1.6 million. Donald Trump's not going to jail for any of this. But wait, there's more. New York prosecutors have spent several years investigating former President Trump and his businesses. Trump, who recently announced that he was running for president again, has said the case against his company was part of a political motivated witch hunt waged against him by vindictive Democrats. Trump himself was not on trial, but prosecutors alleged he knew exactly what was going on with the scheme, though he and the company's lawyers have denied that. The case against the company was built largely around testimony from the Trump Organization's former financial chief, Alan Weisselberg, who previously pleaded guilty to charges that he manipulated the company's books and his own compensation package to illegally reduce his taxes. He testified in exchange for a promised 5-month jail sentence only. To convict the Trump Organization, prosecutors had to convince jurors that Weisselberg or his subordinates, Senior Vice President and Controller Jeffrey McConney, were high marginal agents acting on the company's behalf and that the company also benefited from the scheme. Trump Organization lawyers argued that Weisselberg had gone rogue and betrayed the company's trust. No one in the Trump family or their company was to blame, they argued. Though he testified as a prosecution witness, Weisselberg also attempted to take responsibility on the witness stand, saying that nobody in the Trump family knew what he was doing. Weisselberg also pleaded guilty to dodging taxes on 1.7 million in fringe benefits, testified that he and McConney conspired to hide that extra compensation from his income by deducting their costs from his pre-tax salary and issuing false W-2 forms. Mr. Weisselberg testified under oath that he betrayed the trust of the company had placed in him, and that he, at all times, acted solely for his own personal gain and out of his own personal greed. A spokesperson for the Trump Organization spoke up and informed everyone to look at what his actual testimony was and how he took responsibility for this, and that he was the only one doing this and had nothing to do with Donald Trump or the rest of the organization. The notion that a company could be held responsible for employees' actions to benefit themselves on their own personal tax returns is simply preposterous. The spokesperson called the case unprecedented and legally incorrect and said the Trump Organization would appeal the verdict. Trump's office suggested the conviction drained government resources at the expense of record-setting murder and other forms of violent crimes that are taking place in New York City. His office called the case a continuation of the greatest political witch hunt in the history of our country. New York City is a hard place to be a Trump, as businesses and people flee our once great city, as the statement said. During his closing argument, prosecutor Joshua Stanglass attempted to refute the claim that Trump knew nothing about the scheme. He showed jurors a lease Trump signed for Weisselberg's company-paid apartment and a memo Trump initiated authorizing a pay cut for another executive who got perks. Mr. Trump is explicitly sanctioned tax fraud, Stanglass argued. The verdict doesn't end Trump's battle with the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, Alvin Briggs, a Democrat who took office back in January. Bragg has said that a related investigation of Trump that began under his predecessor, which was District Attorney Cyrus Vance Jr., is active and ongoing. In that wide-range probe, investigators have examined whether Trump misled banks and others about the value of his real estate holdings, golf courses, and other assets. Allegations at the heart of the New York Attorney General's Letitia James pending a lawsuit against the former president and his company. Near the end of his tenure last year, Vance directed deputies to present evidence to the grand jury for a possible indictment of Trump. After taking office, though, Bragg let that grand jury disband so he could give the case a fresh look. On Monday, yesterday, he confirmed that a new lead prosecutor had been brought on to handle the investigation, signaling that it is still alive and active. So, for all of you that are following CNN and MSNBC and the liberals and the Democrats tonight, hate to bust your bubble, but Trump has been convicted of absolutely nothing. It was a person in a subcontractor in a company working for the Trump Organization that committed fraud for himself and benefited himself by cheating taxes. But they tried to lump it all in to make it look like Trump was responsible for this, and it did not work. They even gave this guy a short jail sentence if he would work with them, and he did. And that shit is now done. On to the next witch hunt, which will come out soon. Trust me. They're not going to ever let up. Critics slam President Biden on Tuesday after he claimed there were more important things going on in response to a question about why he hasn't visited the southern border during his trip to Arizona. Fox News Peter Dosey asked the president why he was not planning to visit the border while in the state to tour a semiconductor manufacturing plant in Phoenix. And he responded, because there are more important things going on. They're going to invest billions of dollars in a new enterprise. Tell that to the Border Patrol. The Heritage Foundation, John Cooper said. The Border Patrol Union reacted to the news as well and made a comparison to the president visiting an ice cream shop. Visiting an ice cream shop, very important, they wrote. Visiting our border, where illegal immigration, deaths, escapees, and fentanyl smuggling set new records, nonstop, with thousands dying as a result. And that's not important to Joe Biden. Representative Dan Kershaw, Republican, Texas, listed several concerns about the southern border and said that it did not land on Biden's priority list. White House Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre told reporters on Monday that the president did not plan to visit the border during his trip. He'll be visiting TSMC, a company making a major investment to manufacture cutting-edge chips in Phoenix. This will bring new jobs and economic opportunity to Arizona, Jean-Pierre said during a press conference, and it's in large part thanks to the CHIPS and Science Act. House Oversight Committee Republicans asked the worst border crisis in U.S. history isn't important enough. Committee Republicans have seen the border firsthand. It is a national security and humanitarian disaster, they wrote in response to a clip to the comments. House Judiciary Republicans also reacted to the comments and asked on Twitter why the president is scared to visit the border. The White House, in statements to Fox News Digital, said President Biden is working to secure the border, but is also focused on the U.S. economy. The president was clear that his top priorities is investing in the American economy and the American communities, outcompeting China and bringing back American jobs from overseas. In fact, as Fox News' own analysts showed, the economy is the top issue for most Americans, the statement said. If anyone believes that shouldn't be the president's top priority too, they should say it out loud. Of course, the president is also taking action to secure our border and build fair, orderly, and humane immigration system. He secured more funding than all of his predecessors to support the men and women of the Department of Homeland Security, put forward a comprehensive immigration reform proposal, and brought 20 world leaders together to jointly manage a migration challenge impacting the entire Western Hemisphere. Biden is focused on real solutions and not political stunts. And if border security is such a top priority for Republican officials, voting against President Biden's request for record funding for the Department of Homeland Security, as Representative Roy did, is an odd way to show it. Jean-Pierre also claimed Republicans were doing political stunts with regards to the border. What are congressional Republicans going to do exactly? Deal with this issue instead of doing political stunts? Jean-Pierre said Monday, responding to a question from Fox News. Excuse me, madam. Build a fucking wall. That's what they want to do. How about you go down there? I'm sure you got plenty of time and go meet with the Border Patrol. Let them take you out and show you what the fuck you are saying, because you don't know what you're saying. You're as completely clueless as the guy you work for. She said last week that the president had been to the border, despite there being no record of Biden's visit. She said he's been there. He's been to the border, and since he took office. Well, folks, that is the press secretary for the president of the United States lying her ass off, because Joe Biden has not been to the border. He has not met down there with the Border Patrol agents or law enforcement or anyone dealing with that border. Joe Biden has failed all of those that are being affected, Americans, by the drug smuggling, the cartels, the MS-13 gang members and many other types of gangs, the sex trafficking of women and children. I've said this before and I'll say it again. It will take someone, a Democrat member of Congress or senator or the Biden family to be affected by this crisis on the border to make change during this administration. One of their family members needs to end up becoming an angel family. Angel family is where an illegal alien kills your loved one. Now, I wish that on no one, but I tell you what, sadly, that's what will have to happen in order for this administration and these Democrats to take this shit serious. Thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands actually, have died due to what's happening coming across that border. And this guy in charge doesn't have time. He's got more important things to do. Well, sir, as President of the United States of America, there is nothing more important than the security of our country. That is the oath that you took. That is the oath that you are now violating and continue to violate since the day you took office. Critics are sounding the alarm on the Internal Revenue Service, significantly lowering the threshold for transaction reporting through payment apps. Now, pay close attention to this. If you use PayPal, for instance, and Venmo, and all these different apps that are available to help you make a little side hustle, this is you. Warning that changes signals a new level of government overreach that targets small businesses and middle-class Americans. The IRS issued a reminder last week to taxpayers to utilize third-party payment processors like Venmo and PayPal about changes to reporting income in an updated explainer on their website. These changes, created by the American Rescue Act, now require that platforms report any transaction over $600 to the IRS. Joe Biden said no one under $400,000 would be targeted by that tax plan. This is going to hit people making nothing to millions, and it's going to hit the middle class. This is wrong. After the American Rescue Act was passed in March of 2021, changes in the U.S. tax code and Internal Revenue Service rules added a new threshold of third-party payment processors. Beginning this tax year, Americans must prepare to fill out a 1099-K for any $600 transaction using online platforms of any sort. Payment apps were previously required to send users 1099-K for their gross income exceeding $20,000, or they had 200 separate transactions within a calendar year. Some have called out Democrats for appearing to defy their original message on the American Rescue Act, where leaders said changes would only target wealthy taxpayers. We were promised this time that the tax bill was only going to go after the super rich. America's for Tax Reform, Grover Nyquist, noted on Fox and Friends Tuesday, $600, they're targeting you and me and anyone who's online. The new reporting changes also spark worries about additional audits on taxpayers. This affects this year's taxes, 2022 taxes, and of course said, if these forms are flying around to the IRS, and if you're not ready to defend yourself, if you don't have all the backup proof that you know that what you paid and how you did it, you're going to end up paying extra taxes and be fined by the IRS and an audit. You're going to end up being audited because you don't have the paperwork. And most people that do little things like Venmos and things like that and PayPals, they don't keep those records because it ain't that much money. One reported by Ticketmaster or Venmo you get audited. This is a honeypot for audits, they warned. I reported on this a while back, how Joe Biden said that $20,000 or more of additional income is the only way it would be looked at. And then it came out that it was $600 or more deposited per month, even in your own fucking bank account, which means that even if you work at McDonald's making minimum wage, the IRS will monitor the shit out of you and audit you because they won't take the money from the rich like they claim they will. No, it's not happening. Moving on, House Democrats today rejected a Republican request for information about, you ready for this? The United States Postal Service surveillance program that the GOP says has reportedly been used to spy on conservatives. That's right, the mail people that deliver the mail to your house. The U.S. Postal Inspection Service operates the Internal Covert Operations Program, also known as the ICOP. The Postal Inspector Service is a security arm of the Postal Service. The ICOP works to assess threats to the infrastructure, employees, and customers by monitoring open source information. In order to preserve operational effectiveness, the U.S. Postal Inspection Service does not discuss its protocols, investigate methods, or tools, the Postal Inspector Service told Fox News Digital. In 2021, however, reports surfaced that ICOP was sending out bulletins to law enforcement officials on the movement of protesters, including one that claimed to have information on militia groups that might be threatening House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. That prompted Inspector General's report, released last March, that found ICOP's actions exceeded the Postal Inspection Service law enforcement authority. Then in September, the Cato Institute obtained records indicating ICOP had been used to track gun right activists and conservative groups opposed to Joe Biden. That drove Representative Andrew Clyde, Republican Georgia, to propose a resolution demanding all documents and information about ICOP's alleged activities against conservatives. But in a meeting today, the House Oversight and Reform Committee, Democrats voted to unfavorably report Clyde's resolution to the floor, effectively killing the request for more information. Of course. Republicans argued unsuccessfully for its passage by arguing ICOP is allowing the U.S. Postal Service to stray very far from its mission. My question is, what does that have to do with the United States Postal Service? Clyde said in committee after reviewing ICOP's alleged activities. How much money has the Postal Service squandered on its program? I'm incredibly concerned the actions taken by the U.S. Postal Inspector Service for potential allegedly targeting conservative-leaning individuals in the pro-life group, various pro-life groups or Second Amendment groups, added Representative Joyce Heiss, Republican Georgia. The Postal Inspector Service has a mission, and quite frankly, they are far outside of their mission if these accusations are in fact true. But Democrats rejected the GOP's push for more information, even though they support the Internal Inspector General's examination of the ICOP. I believe strongly in protecting America's First Amendment rights, and I also believe that we cannot accept inappropriate surveillance of peacetime protesters and other First Amendment activity, said Committee Chair Carolyn Maloney, Democrat, New York. But the highly partisan resolution we're debating today is unnecessary and misdirected, and it would do nothing to protect the First Amendment. Maybe she needs to read the First Amendment. Maloney said that as a result of the IG report, the U.S. Postal Service agreed to address recommendations and conduct an internal review of the ICOP. Clyde's resolution has a resolution of inquiry, which is required to be considered either in committee or on the House floor. The Democrat votes against it in a way that killed the proposal. Several of these resolutions have been rejected by Democrats this year, and Republicans are expected to use these as a basis for aggressive oversight efforts against the Biden administration once Republicans take control of the House in January. So be careful what you fucking do, Democrats. I've been telling you this. I've been warning you about this, that you're about to screw yourself if you continue with all these horrible, hateful things that you do towards conservatives and Republicans and anyone that says MAGA or calls himself a patriot. What's going to happen when the day comes that you're no longer in charge? The witch hunt will then turn on you. And that's what is going to take place come January. So guess what, Democrats? You did it to yourself. Stop your whining and bitching in January when you find your ass hauled in front of congressional hearings having to justify your criminal activity, exposed to the world. Let's take a quick look at Georgia, where we're at right now. Not much has changed. Walker's at 49.63. Warnock's at 50.37%. And we still have many counties left reporting. The Washington Post published a report Monday. You guys are going to love this. The racial shit that gets thrown around is mind-boggling. And the sad part about it is, for people that are actually affected by real racism, this is like pissing in their face because it just gets stupider. The Washington Post published a report Monday slamming Discovery Channel's Shark Week program. Y'all remember that program that happens every year, right? Shark Week. And what could they possibly be upset about? It's featuring too many white males as shark experts and continue to peddle negative messages about sharks. Oh. There's so many jokes I'd like to throw into this right now, but it's just not appropriate. The report highlighted a study done by the Public Library of Science, led by Allegheny College biology professor Lisa Whiteneck. The project observed that Discovery's programming emphasized negative messages about sharks, lacking useful messages about shark conservation, and overwhelmingly featuring white men as experts, including several with the same names. Before diving into the study, the Washington Post provided a brief introduction of Whiteneck, noting that the biologist loved sharks as a kid and watched Shark Week every summer. However, the piece stated, when the scientist appeared on her TV screen, she rarely saw any women she could look up to. Thinking about that later in life, she said, I don't come from a family of scientists. I didn't see very many people that looked like me on television. As an adult, Whiteneck decided to explore these misconceptions, as the Post characterized them, the piece claimed. When the pandemic lockdowns came in 2020, she saw an opportunity to study the source of her misconceptions. Was Shark Week feeding audiences the wrong messages about sharks? And who studies them? The question prompted Whiteneck's study. The report stated Whiteneck led a team of researchers to examine hundreds of Shark Week episodes that aired between 1988 and 2020. I freaking swear. It's like I'm reading a Saturday Night Live skit. In addition to the study revealing the program's negative depiction of sharks, it featured more white experts and commentators named Mike than women. So, I knew I wasn't going to be able to get through this without laughing. Okay, so you can't have too many white men that are experts on sharks. You can't have too many men named Mike that are experts on sharks. And you can't have too many men, period, that are experts on sharks. We must have some white men named something else besides Mike. We must add women to this equation. And we must add people of other nationalities and colors. Or it's fake news about sharks. Don't believe it. Me. I'm sorry. Jesus, this is just, I swear. Shipman implied that this may be due to discrimination on part of the Disney Channel. He said, when there are hundreds of people of color interested who work in this field, and when my field is more than half women, maybe it's not an accident anymore that they're only featuring white men. The Post noted Discovery has yet to comment on the findings, though they rejected responding to findings from a preliminary version of the study in 2021, claiming it has yet to pass any scientific approvals. According to the study, the trend persists throughout most or almost all of the television events history. Over 90% of the 229 experts featured in 201 shark episodes were white, the study found, and about 78% were men. The piece quoted minorities and shark science co-founder and biologist Carleen Bohaman, who praised the study for putting numbers to her and her colleagues' longstanding concerns about diversity in both the media and shark science. I'm sorry. Bohan stated, we all grew up seeing one type of person on TV. Shark Week was really the biggest thing, and it was always filled with white men. Damn, I'm through it. Thank God. Oh, jeez. I had to read that story like 5 times before I thought I could get through it without laughing at it. Are you freaking kidding me? See, this is what's wrong. It really is. Because there is racism out there, okay? Racism does exist. But these liberal nut jobs throw race to everything they can. If it doesn't fit their ideology, it's racist. It's like, for instance, I reported, 3 years ago, right here on this show, that they were going after the airline industries for not hiring enough black guys to fly airplanes. And they wanted to come up with a quota where you have to hire so many black people to fly airplanes before you can hire white people. You can't fix stupid. It's absolutely insane. And for those that have been affected by real racism, it doesn't even matter. They wouldn't report it if you were hung by a freaking noose in a tree. No, because it doesn't meet their narrative. It's got to be stupid shit. We're going after sharks now and people that study sharks. So look, for all of you out there that are not white males named Mike, please apply to be a biologist to study sharks so we can please these liberal idiots, for crying out loud, before Shark Week gets removed the way they removed Dukes of Hazzard because of the rebel flag on top of their car. All right, moving on. Elon Musk said that Twitter Deputy General Counsel Jim Baker has been fired from the company today after revelations about his role in the platform's handling of the Hunter Biden laptop story. Journalist Matt Tibley published internal communications over the weekend that took place among Twitter's top brass in October 2020 about how the deal with the New York Post publication of materials on Hunter Biden's laptop. Baker was involved in discussions about whether the laptop falls under Twitter's hack materials policy. I support the conclusion that we need more facts to assess whether the material was hacked, Baker wrote in one email chain. At this stage, however, it's reasonable for us to assume that they may have been, and that is caution warranted. Baker responded to a Twitter executive who was wondering whether they could truthfully claim that the laptop story was part of the policy. Before joining Twitter, Baker worked as general counsel for, guess what? The FBI, where he was involved in, guess what? The Bureau's investigation into alleged Russia-Trump interference in the 2016 presidential election. How convenient is that shit? That they hired an ex-FBI agent that just so happened to be involved in the Trump and Russia fake collusion bullshit. Tibley said Tuesday that he and another journalist, Boris Weiss, were dealing with many obstacles trying to get basic information about what all they suppressed. Representative James Comer, Republican Kentucky, told Fox and Friends First on Monday that the House Oversight Committee will likely call Baker and other Twitter executives to testify about their handling of the laptop story. And they will, trust me. Baker and former Twitter executive, and I don't even know how to pronounce her first name or last name. I'm just going to spell it for you. It's Bijayagaddde, are probably the two most high-profile employees that we want to hear from, Comer said. My advice to them is, prior to coming before the Oversight Committee in January or February, as quick as we can get them to the front of the Oversight Committee, is they need to look very hard to try to find evidence as to why they suppressed this story. Now, I reported to you guys on Thursday that, actually, I take that back. It was over the weekend that I did a special 911 show about how Elon Musk was releasing these documents and emails. And several people reached out to me and said, oh, all I want to do is not have the penis pictures from the laptop shown. And it was a nothing burger, basically. Instead of looking at exactly what was said, nor are they realizing that this is just one dump of many to come. Elon Musk has told us that there is a treasure trove of documents and emails about how they worked with the FBI and the Biden administration while Trump was still president. Okay, this is during the election. They worked with them to suppress stories that were negative about Biden, and they suppressed stories that were positive about Trump. Basically, the Bidens in the run-up to the election and going through now that he's elected, work with the FBI and the Department of Justice to work with social media, Twitter, YouTube, Facebook, to censor anything negative about Biden and China, Biden and Boriska, Biden and Ukraine, Biden and Hunter and his laptop, all of that. They worked to suppress that, to help Biden get elected. But it's very difficult to get some people to understand that concept. Did Trump, was he involved when he was president to get the FBI and the Department of Justice to get involved with social media to squash stories? I don't know. Maybe we'll find that out too. But I do know what the current owner of Twitter is saying, the person that bought the company, he's saying, oh my God, there was this whole conspiracy thing with the Biden campaign, and the FBI and Department of Justice were in on it, working with the different social media companies to help Biden get elected. And this is about to blow up in their face because Elon Musk has said, I'm going to release all of this stuff. And he's letting it out in little bitty bits at a time. I don't know how many dumps there are. I'm hearing there's over 20 that are about to come out. We shall see. Regardless, the fact that they were able to get social media companies to work with them to steal this election, this past election, is damaging to our democracy in a way like we've never seen before. It's absolutely horrible what they did. It's freaking treasonous. They went out of their way to pump up one guy that's got a ton of shit wrong with him and dealings that he did that are illegal. But yet, the only guy that really got attacked was Trump, who came out and admitted to the things that he did, such as grabbing women by the you-know-what, and they still elected him. Locker room talk, saying that country A or country B are shithole countries, for just being himself, for going on the attack of people that attack him and slamming them like a ton of bricks, which is what really upset them because they'd never had that happen before. In the past, Republican presidents were too freaking weak to stand up to them and just didn't say shit. And then you get a guy come along that's not a politician that says, fuck you. If you say some shit about me or my family, I'm going to freaking just pounder you with verbal things. And they didn't like that. That went against everything. And Trump didn't give a shit if you were a Republican or a Democrat. If you said something against him or his family, he came out blazing saddles at your ass. And that was a big shocker. And it has a lot to do with why these investigations just continue to happen. So anyhow, more to come on that as we move on. I'm sure before Christmas gets here, there'll be at least one or two more dumps from Twitter that we get to see. And then once the Republicans take over the House in January, it's going to be, and I'm sure, I have no doubt, if Elon Musk is the brain that I think he is, he's going to wait and hold back the most damning stuff for his point, his shining day in front of a congressional inquiry. When they investigate this, I bet you can just mark my words on it. Doug Ducote said this, 12/6/2022 at 8:43 p.m. He's going to release some shit on that day with the cameras rolling. They're going to blow your mind if he's the person I think he is. So maybe I'm wrong. Maybe nothing else is going to come out that's going to be damning. But I don't quite think that's the case. I do believe there is some shit about to go down that's just going to have you shaking your head going, what the fuck did these Democrats get away with? But that's not going to happen anymore. At least not with us having the House. All right, let's take one more look at where we're at in Georgia. And once again, it's flipped. We have Herschel Walker up 50.15%, to Democrat Warnock's 49.85%. So it's going to continue back and forth a little bit. The good news is the major city areas that we know we're going to turn blue are already in this count. Atlanta, for instance, Macon, they're already done. We're looking at suburbs now, and we're looking at counties that are out in the country or down around the Florida coastline, a few out towards the Alabama line and north that are still out there. So it's going to be close. Right now, 50.15 to 49.85. Now, I don't know if the early voting is already in this tally or not. I do know that they broke records in early voting. I would assume it is, because here's the numbers at the moment. We're almost at 3 million people voted. Okay, so I think this is also counting early voting, where Warnock has 1,462,489. The Walkers 1,473,613. So chances are that's early. If that's not early voting, that's pretty damn shocking, because that means Georgia came out in droves and everybody freaking went and voted. So we'll see. It's going to be very close, and who knows? One of these counties may hold shit up throughout the night and decide for whatever reason that they're just going to go home for the night and stop counting, which we've seen in the past, right? Anyhow, folks, you have many places to be tonight. Chose to be here with me, and for that, I'm forever grateful. If you haven't already done so, please like and subscribe to this channel. Also, go check out my other YouTube channel, Charlie Hotel 47. Subscribe, ring the bell. I put out some really cool videos there that are not political, that are history related, for you to hopefully share with the youth of our nation, to see the great things that I've been blessed to be able to see as I travel not only America, but the world. And many more to come. We're going to go over to France. We're going to go over to Normandy. We're going to do documentaries over there. We're going to go back down to Hawaii. We're going to do the USS Arizona. There's a lot of different places that we're going to travel to that we haven't already done. And that's all being scheduled for next year. So I hope that you will go to Charlie Hotel 47, the YouTube channel, and subscribe. Check out those videos and share them with your kids. Share them with the youth. One thing I can't do, I can, but I don't there. You have the option of, when you share a video or when you do a live show like this, whether or not you want to allow minors to see it. And of course, I don't do that for this show, because I don't need minors to hear what comes out of my mouth sometimes, or to hear some of the things that I talk about. But on that channel, I found out that if you click, it's available for minors to watch also, which I believe all the videos there are. They take away the comment section, because YouTube doesn't want a kid watching something and be able to see some kind of rude comment. So therefore, nobody can say shit. So it's not marked, and that's the only reason it's not marked for all audiences. So it has to be just like this one, because I want people to be able to comment. I want to hear your feedback on the information I put out there, just like I do with this show and with this channel. Also, if you haven't already done so, go to DouglasDucote.com, check out the website. Christmas is coming up, and at the shop on the website, there's some cool patriotic gear available for you to purchase for family members or conservatives, Republicans, or anybody that likes this show. So please go there and check that out as well. As always, please say a prayer for our men and women serving the United States military, our veterans, our law enforcement officers, our first responders, their families, our angel families, our blue and gold star families, and our country. May God bless the United States of America. Folks, have a blessed evening, and I'll see you Thursday night right here at 8 p.m. Central Time. Take care, and thank you for joining tonight.